So London had a terror attack again today. They've actually just identified 20 minutes ago that he was named. I'm not going to name him. I'm done naming him. I just did that for the initial report, and that is it. But he was a radical. The quote from The Independent is, law enforcement sources say he was a radical Muslim cleric who had already been convicted of inciting terrorist attacks and funding terrorism in the UK. So joining me to help understand and kind of break down what happened here in the UK, we have Dr. Alex Del Carmen. He's head of the School of Criminology, Criminal Justice, and Strategic Studies at Tarleton State University in the fine city of Fort Worth, the west half of the Metroplex. Dr. Del Carmen, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's good to have you on. All right, so we now know who the attacker is. I'm curious to get your take on this because as soon as I saw this kind of coming across my Twitter feed and then turning on some news and all that kind of stuff, I just thought of all these other terror attacks in Europe, you know, using a vehicle to kill a bunch of people and then jumping out of the vehicle once it's disabled and attacking people around you. I mean, is this becoming kind of their modus operandi, or how do you see it?
Yeah, those are my initial thoughts as well. Once we learned of how this individual basically accelerated in his vehicle and went out and got out of his car after he used it as a weapon and stabbed a police officer. I mean, this is modus operandi 101 of a terrorist attack, as we have seen in the past 2 to 3 years in Paris, in the United States, and other parts of the world. And so, you know, this is probably one of the simplest ways of attacking innocent people. Doesn't take a lot of sophistication. It doesn't take for someone to be highly trained or highly skilled or for you to prepare any kind of weaponry per se. It's very simple, and yet is very effective. I mean, look at the fact that the entire world is talking about the terrorist attack, and we've come to know who this guy is in the past 20 or so minutes, as you indicated.
Yeah, and I appreciate you not using his name either. I don't want people to remember his name. So that's my standard and has been in media for years is I will not name mass killers, serial, any of these types of people, terrorists, other than the initial report, just to get it out there, and that's it, and then I won't talk about it from there on out.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So Dr. Alex Del Carmen again is joining me on the telephone right now, and so what, I mean, really, when you think about this, so getting a car, that just requires a driver's license, and some insurance. I mean, very minimal training. He had an 8-inch knife, which I understand in the UK now, to get a chef's knife, the end has been removed. They're blunted. Where does this end in terms of us as a society trying to restrict their ability to find weapons? Won't they always find some kind of a weapon?
That's exactly right, and I've said this for years, even before 9/11. At the end of the day, we can come up with these incredibly restrictive measures to make sure that, potentially bad people don't get a hold of any weapons or any knives or any forks or any trash cans or whatnot. But at the end of the day, when there is a will, there is a way. And these individuals are people that are highly, in their minds at least, they feel like they're committed to their cause. They will die for their cause. And they will do whatever it takes to advance, even if it's 1 inch at a time, their ideology forward. And so we can restrict them all you want, but they will always find a way to inflict harm on all of us. And although tragic, we know now that 3 people have died. We know that there were over a dozen people that were injured. And that's horrible. But at the same time, in the context of things, our democracies will continue. Tomorrow we're going to wake up in the United States doing what we do best, which is work hard and take our kids to school and all of that. So they're not going to stop us, but they want our attention. They want to inflict terror on every single one of us so that we can live in fear. So
that's a great point. That's the whole point of terrorism: make us live in fear. So, Dr. Del Carmen, then, is really the best thing to do, and I almost hate to say this, going back to President Bush, who, of course, is in your neighborhood nowadays. But really, after 9/11, he's like, yeah, go out and shop. In other words, don't let the terrorists alter what you do. That is how they win. So if we just continue on, mourn the dead, take care of things, make things better where we can, preferably not blow tens of billions of dollars on security that doesn't make us any more secure or violate our 4th Amendment rights. But just kind of carry on with their lives. Is that the best way to kind of, flip the bird at the terrorists?
Absolutely. And if you look, you remember soon after 9/11, he said the best thing that you can do for the United States if you're patriotic is to fly. It's what President Bush said to the rest of the other country, and he was exactly right. And if you look at the Israelis who deal with terrorism on a daily basis, they will all tell you that when they have a terrorist attack, after they remove the bodies and they investigate the crime, there is a whole crew of construction workers that will come in to reconstruct the damage and make sure that they let the enemy know that their lives will continue as they were the day before the attack. And so at the end of the day, it's a psychological operation. On their end, the bad guys are trying to tell us, pay attention to us, we exist, and we're going to inflict terror. And our attempt should be exactly the opposite, which is we're not going to pay attention to you. We are going to continue doing what we do best, which is live in a free democracy, and we are going to continue our lives in spite of the damage that you create in our daily lives.
Yeah, and it's interesting how upset we are as a world, as we should be, about this attack in the UK. Yet Israel, it's happening daily and weekly, and has been now for 18 months or so with these types of attacks in Israel. And yet nobody wants to say anything, and the UN is completely backwards in terms of how they approach Israel. But that's a whole other topic. Dr. Alex Del Carmen, look, I appreciate your time today. Again, he's the head of the School of Criminology, Criminal Justice, and Strategic Studies at Tarleton State University in the fine city of Fort Worth, Texas. Dr. Del Carmen, thanks for coming on the show today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Genuinely appreciate it.